Hello and welcome to my map ranking for Fire Emblem 3 and Fire Emblem 12, which are New Mystery of the Emblem and Mystery of the Emblem. Anyways, this game has honestly a wild range of variety of maps, and New Mystery adds a lot of new maps, and they aren't actually good, like any of them. So that'll make the F tier in this list interesting. Anyways, we're going to jump right into F tier. Pretty much F tier is designated to New Mystery of the Emblem exclusive maps that are extremely tiny and uneventful. In fact, number 38 through 32 is just the first 7 prologues. It's worth noting that the tier list template I found doesn't even have the prologues on it. But even if it did have them on it, these wouldn't be anywhere other than the bottom 7 spots. These maps are literally nothing. If I had to actually order them from worst to best, I don't know if I'd be able to. I know the first one's the worst. The Prologue 4 is probably the best. But even then, I don't think any of them are good. Any of them are worthwhile. And frankly, they all kind of just suck. Number 31, Chapter 3X. This is what I'm about to say is a bold claim, especially considering the prologues right before it, but this may be the most pointless map in all of Fire Emblem. It's tiny, its story is quite honestly inconsequential because the actual antagonist retreats. You get one new unit, a healer Weirs, who serves no purpose other than unit bloat, and it really doesn't advance the plotline of the assassin story, which isn't good to begin with at all. There's nothing fun about this map gameplay-wise. There's nothing fun about it story-wise. It has no purpose! Number 30, Chapter 16X. Again, another useless map in the assassination subplot. This one has Katarina on it, and, well, at least after this, you'll never have to deal with her in story again. Whether you kill her or recruit her, you're done with her, and that's a good thing, because I honestly always have found her annoying. And again, I hate the assassin subplot, and this map is tiny and nothingness. Number 29, Chapter 10X. Well, at least Katarina's not in this map. That's all I gotta say. You don't have to deal with Katarina or Clarice. I can't remember her name. You want to get Legion, which is fine, but this map's still boring. It's a tiny room with, infinite reinforcements until you kill the real Legion. Come on. Come on! Give me something interesting. Number 28, Chapter 13X. You get the Lote Shield. That's the only thing you note on this map. I don't hate Fog of War maps, but this is a Fog of War map with a ton of ballistas out of range. That sucks. That's annoying. But hey, again, the Lote Shield. Cool. Why isn't it on Chapter 3 like in the original game as a hidden item? Number 27, Chapter 6X. At least this map takes advantage of its tiny size by throwing a lot at you, which makes the first turn really, really fun. After the first turn, though, it's extremely, extremely boring because there's nothing anymore because half the enemies are gone. But hey, the first turn's really fun, and that's why it's better than all the other Gaiden chapters -1. D tier maps. These ones still aren't very good. These maps go from pretty bad, though, to actually not the end of the world. I just find them more annoying than fun, even if they're not terrible. Yep. Number 26, the final Gaiden map, Chapter 20X. It's the best Gaiden map in this game, because it's not extremely tiny, but it's still very, very boring, and it has really nothing going on. The chests aren't interesting. Fog of War? Whoa, cool. I don't care. Fog of War was not necessary in this game. It's used in 2 Gaiden maps. That's it. It didn't need to be here. The chests are kind of cool because you can get Excalibur or Aura, but that's really, again, all this map has going on. Number 25, Chapter 11. Well, at least desert items are 100% defined. I talk about it later, but I actually don't mind the Henri's Way part of this game, and I have reasons for that, but this map just does suck, because it's all desert, and that's annoying. Plus, this is also the first map in Fire Emblem and Fire Emblem 3 that has the desert items, and I will never forgive this map for introducing those, because I hate the desert items. Worst idea ever. Number 24, Chapter 21. This is just one of those late game fillers that only really is there just to bloat out the time between Hardin and Medius. There's nothing really interesting in this map. especially if you're playing the original. The new game, obviously they both have the Starlight Village, but even then, it's not that interesting. You had a Starlight Village in the previous game, ironically on a map with McAllis as well, but that doesn't really make this map that interesting. Number 23, Chapter 22. The chests are completely useless in this map. Honestly, this map to me is the definition of filler, especially in Fire Emblem 3, where you can't save again after this map. I think the main reason it's here, at least in FE3, is kind of to make the final maps an endurance test, which just in Fire Emblem 12 just ultimately makes this map pointless and not fun. Number 22, Prologue 8. Finally, the last new mystery exclusive map. Also, we have yet to get to any real Fire Emblem 3 maps. And we've already gone through over 10 maps. But hey, this one has amazing music. I didn't mention that with 16X because that's more focused on hating Katarina. This is the last map you have to deal with Katarina for a little while. It's the last time she's relevant, and this is really where the assassin subplot kind of loses its relevancy. Because, yeah, there's a couple of guided maps throughout the game, but it's not really ever relevant after the prologue again. And this is actually kind of a fun map. I actually kind of like it. Nothing actually matters yet, because that's the problem with the prologue. Nothing actually matters. All the units that die come back. Nothing actually matters during the prologue, which is why it should be optional. But at least now you actually finally get your main character and get level ups on them. Yay. Number 21, Chapter 2. Yes, this is the worst Fire Emblem 3 map in my opinion. Why? Because it is literally just forest. Forest and promoted enemies on the second map. Now, obviously it's not the second map here, so your units are higher levels. But that is actually kind of one of the things that made this map fun in the original, is that you were so unprepared to fight the promoted units, and it kind of emphasized the use of actually using Aaron of hey, Aaron doesn't instantly die. Use him and he can help you. Oh, you now have 3 archers. Use them. But none of that really matters as much with reclassing and the fact that there's 8 maps before Chapter 1 where you can start grinding up levels on characters like Luke, Chris. So that also kind of lowers the fun of this map because it kind of just becomes boring. Oh, there's forest. The Lady Sword's also, and it's still fun to get, but again, reclassing makes it easier than ever before to get because just reclass Aaron into a Wyvern and boom, you got it. You don't even have to risk Catria. So, I don't know. Not a fan of it. Number 20, Chapter 7. Essentially a new Mystery of the Emblem, this is a better Chapter 2. I frankly, in the original game, would put this lower than Chapter 2, but Chapter 2's lost all of its fun and luster thanks to various mechanics. This one's essentially, in this game, just a better Chapter 2. Still all forest, which still sucks, but you get a dancer, and it is actually kind of fun to try and get all the thieves. That is the one, I will say I enjoy it, but it's also very short-lived fun because this map's kind of just short, because that's all there is to it. Number 19, Chapter 3. Okay, I got a bone to pick with this map. This map is pointlessly long no matter how you slice it. If you don't use the drawbridge, you're going around in a super long circle. But if you use the drawbridge, you're still going to have to go out of your way to get all the villages, especially in New Mystery of the Emblem, where there's a new village with a recruitable axe user to the left somewhere. And it's just somewhere yonder is okay, so, cool. If I want to get all the stuff this map has to offer, why not just take the long route? It's just, that sucks. What's the point of this? And if you want to recruit Mathis, again, you have to go all the way around. You need Julian. So, what's the point of the drawbridge? Because if you use it, yeah, sure, you're making the map shorter, but you can't get anything on the map, essentially, without either wasting a ton of turns to still go to the villages, or maybe you just don't care. So, I don't get what the point of that is. I do again, just like I said with Chapter 2, there's enough Wyverns in this map, though, unlike Chapter 2, where the difficulty still's there, even with the prologue, of oh, you actually need to get all of them still. C-tier maps. This is probably the shortest C-tier I've ever done in one of these videos, mostly because F-tier is bloated. But, on average, I enjoy, just like Shadow Dragon, on average, I enjoy this game's map. I feel like I was awfully harsh on Shadow Dragon when I did that map ranking. I feel like I'm being a little bit more lenient on this game. Maybe eventually I'll find the middle ground. But I do genuinely think this game has fun maps, some of the ones we've already had. And it's even, like, obviously, reclassing is a very double-edged sword. I think it's really fun, but at the same time, it does ruin unit individuality. But the Arcane games are really games where the units don't have any characters anyways. So, is it that big of a deal? I don't think so. So anyways, with C tier on to number 18, Chapter 9. This map, honestly, the only reason I have it high is because I always kill Astrum on it. If you don't kill Astrum on this map, it's kind of boring and a waste of time. But if you actually try to kill Astrum, this is a really, really fun map. It's setting up to actually do it is always fun, and I have a bone to pick with this map, though, because when I first played Fire Emblem 12, I didn't get the Star Shard in the chest, and that screwed me out of the good ending, and I'm kind of pissed off about that still. So don't forget about that. Number 17, Chapter 10. I like maps with side objectives, but this map essentially has a worse version of a side objective later in the game, which is just not killing the priests for the silver card. The reward's great, but I feel like this is a point in the game where I just kind of almost rather would have XP, but also I want the silver card. And again, since they do this kind of objective that don't kill certain side kind of enemies twice in this game, well, the other map does it way better, so why did it need to be in 2 maps? Number 16, Chapter 23. This is better than FE3's because of Garneth's location. Because if I remember FE3 correctly, Garneth isn't on the throne. But in this game, it essentially just makes this map easier to warp skip having Garneth there. Also, with both games, I love the placement of the Ohm Staff because it rewards you for not killing the Warp Staff. By having the Warp Staff still, you're able to get the Ohm Staff, and I think that's great. That's very useful to have. If you kill someone, you get to bring them back. And again, if you didn't kill any units that you want to bring back, you're also rewarded by not having to either save or use a warp. So that's actually really fun. Number 15, the Endgame. I like this map. For the longest time, I kind of liked it better in FE3 where you didn't have all the dragons till later turns, but I do think it's too boring and easy that way. It works better for FE3 where you couldn't save in between any of the Dragons Table maps, where in Fire Emblem 12, Chapter 22, 23, and Endgame are all one different map. You have a save screen in between each, where you don't in Fire Emblem 3. So I think adding the difficulty, adding the more dragons, it was a really good decision for this game. And I also like how Medius essentially has multiple health bars if you don't recruit all the characters. So I like that a lot. And I also like how it rewards you for keeping not really the best units in the game alive. Like, Sirius is fine, but he's not great, he's not bad. But you're rewarded by making Medius easier if you have him and you bring him. Because again, especially in FE3, where the units you choose for Chapter 22 are the ones that you have this whole time. And I think that's great. B tier maps. Again, I like C tier is pretty short. Mostly because I have a lot that I like to. I like all these maps from here on out. I all think they're good. I will say I think that B and A tier in this game is weaker than a lot of other games B and A tiers. But I still didn't want to put them in lower tiers because I think they deserve to be in these tiers. Number 14, Chapter 16. It's a perfectly fine map. This frankly could have easily been moved down to C tier, but I like the geosphere. You have to get it. It's such a tiny detail. If you're not paying attention, you lose it and oh, you're doomed. Also, you could make this map way easier for yourself by killing Astrum earlier in the game. But if he's still here, you get to go out of your way to recruit him, which is also fun. Number 13, Chapter 18. Now, I pretty much warp skip this map every time, but it's still a fun map because you're being bombarded from every side. And especially in FE12, you have an incentive to try and fight the people in the north as little as possible so that you can have a chance of recruiting them in Chapter 19, which is awesome. And actually, I hated it when I first learned about that, like the Wolfpack recruitment. I hated it when I first learned about that. But I've come around to think it's actually a really fun optional challenge. Like, it is so unnecessary, but it's kind of fun. A little bit, it contributes a little bit to unit bloat, but again, I think it's still fun. Number 12, Chapter 13. You got multiple ways to go, but they also really only matter if you're recruiting every unit. But I still think it's fun, and I kind of like fighting dragons in this game. What makes Fire Emblem 12 and 3 so interesting is the middle game is really the hardest part. The early game is pretty easy if you're not stupid. I'm stupid, by the way. And the late game, if you do the middle game well, it's also really easy. So this is really the hardest part of the game, and I think that's really interesting. Dragons are not easy enemies, and they're like all condensed to the middle of the game, which is an interesting decision, and you know what? I'm fine with it. Number 11, Chapter 20. I like the challenge of Midia. She's not in a jail cell, she's like right in the open, which adds like some stress of like, oh, am I gonna be able to save her? Am I gonna be able to save her? And I feel like a lot of the chests here are actually useful. And plus, this is, again, this map rewards you. If you have all your resources like the Again stave and the Warp stave, it's pretty cool, pretty easy. You can cheese it. Forging especially makes this easy to cheese. That's what I did in my new mystery Let's Play. And the idea of a good and bad ending is really cool. I also like, though, how this game warns you way ahead of time whether you're going to get it or not, essentially with the Tiki recruit. A-tier maps. There's actually a decent amount of them here because I was feeling nice and generous. And you know what? I actually had a really good time playing all of these maps in the Let's Play, and I've had fun playing them on my own for a while now. Number 10, Chapter 19. Yeah, I put this map super low in my Shadow Dragon ranking because of my experiences with it in this game, and then I put it in A tier. You've got to be clunking me, Alex. You're a hypocrite, you're stupid, you're inconsistent. Yes, I am all of those things, and you know what? I'm shocked about it too. On my notes, on my script for this video, all I have written next to Chapter 19 is, I am so shocked this isn't an F tier. And you know what? It's mostly because of the stupid, awful recruitments of the Wolf Pack that is so unnecessary, but it's such a fun, optional challenge. I also have very mixed feelings about them removing, like, the mountain passage. That was there in FE3. But ultimately, I think it was a good idea, and that actually makes it harder to get all the Wolf Pack because it's harder to guard Sedgar. It's harder to dodge him, which I think is great. And also, you just get all the Wolf Pack, and they're great bait for the ending part of the map, which I think is really funny. Number 9, Chapter 8. I like all the tough enemies on this map. You got Astrum, this group who will eventually start moving north. You got all the tough armor knights that'll start moving after a certain amount of time. And it's really a fun like challenge of like, do I want to kill them? Do I want the XP? Or do I just want to rush out of here and not risk it? And I love optional challenges like that. So awesome. This is another map than the previous map ranking I absolutely demolished. Because this map sucks in Engage. It's Chapter 14, obviously. Ice Dragons are so much less annoying in Fire Emblem 12. In fact, Fire Emblem 12 has the best version of this map. Why? Because the Ice Dragons are one range. They're not 1-3 range or whatever absurd crap it is in Engage, and they're not 1-2 range like the original. That also comes to Tiki being weaker since she doesn't have 1-2 range. But I think that's a great change, and I also love the secret shop location. You would never think about doing it, which is what I think is so fun. It's a precursor to the secret events in Fire Emblem 4. Kaga is always like nice and tricky, but also having the warp staff be obtained on this map is a great hint of like maybe there's something warp-wise on this map, and I think that's great. And I also love how this map warns ya if you're gonna get the good or bad ending early on. Obviously, you can still get the bad ending even if you recruit Tiki. But it's like to me, like, oh yeah, you suck. You're not gonna be able to get the good ending if you can. That's great. It's great. I love it. Number 7, Chapter 15. It's just an epic battle. I've always loved this map. And you also got the optional recruitments of Est and Abel. I pretty much always recruit them because I don't think it's worth... I skip the recruitment because I don't think it's worth recruiting them. But still, it's a fun optional challenge. You get one more arena. I think there's actually another one after this. But you get one more arena if you really want to test it out. And honestly, this map always just makes me feel powerful because I've never struggled on it. And again, you're also rewarded for having the load shield because you're able to trivialize the beginning of it by taking out the ballista, which is great. It rewards you for playing well earlier in the game, which I love. Number 6, Chapter 12. There's nothing special about this map. I just enjoy it. It's that simple. I also like how, though, and I think the FE3 version, the Star Shard's in the chest, or in FE12, it's in the dragon's inventory. And that's a good change. That's a good change. Because it means you can keep moving forward. You don't have to have Marth go to the right, but you also don't need to have a thief alive to actually open a chest. So I like that. That's a good detail. Again, this map, there's nothing too special about it. I just enjoy it quite a bit. Number 5, Chapter 4. Units on 2 fronts, except one front, they're not very strong, which adds to a unique challenge of like, okay, we gotta get the units from the left to the right really, really fast so that all of them can live, especially when you have the thief on the higher difficulties on the village on the right. If you care about the village, well, that thief, you really only got Ogma and Sirius that can stop it in higher difficulties, but that means going out of your way with either Ogma skipping Sirius or possibly opening up enemies to be able to come up across the bridge in the chokehold, which could be very dangerous and make things even worse. That's also why, though, you got the ability to use the rescue stave with Julia to get somebody over there faster, so this isn't much of a worry. It gives you a lot of options on how to handle that, and I really like that. Anyways, we're here to S tier maps. I think these maps are diggity dangity awesome, and I always enjoy playing them, despite the fact that one of these maps absolutely wrecks me typically. Number 4, Chapter 6. I like how pretty much all the enemies are on one side, and there's pros and cons to taking both sides when you go up. You got the siege totems on the right. Those can be annoying to deal with if you don't have 1-2 range weapons. Those also make the chests harder to open. You got 2 different star shards on 2 different sides of the maps. One in Samuel's inventory, and then one obviously on the chest. The reinforcements make it so like, oh, you can't just dilly-dally, or you could fight them as well. And it's, to me, better to go to the right because you don't want to if you want to recruit Samuel, you don't want him to accidentally SD on you in enemy face. I've just always enjoyed this map, and I also like getting player reinforcements, and that's an FE12 change, so I like that. Number 3, Chapter 1. Okay, this map is also better in Fire Emblem 3, mostly because your units aren't overleveled, and it has a great tutorial on dismounting because calves can't fit through the fortress in the top left corner in FE3. They widen the gap in Fire Emblem 12 so they can. But that's a great way to introduce a tutorial, dismounting, which is an annoying feature, but it's still a great tutorial of that feature. And I think this map deserves a lot of praise for that. This is one of the better starting maps because of that. I think it does a great job of teaching you it. Number 2, Chapter 17, the Gra Soldiers. Do I really need to say anything else about this map? The Gra Soldiers is such a fun gimmick. It's so fun that they reused it earlier in the game and made it worse. I am a firm believer that this map was designed before Chapter 10, so the gimmick was created here first and not in Chapter 10. This is better in Fire Emblem 12 because it's easier to tell the difference between the Gra and the Gra and Arcanine soldiers just because the UI is better. But that makes the challenge actually more fun in FE3 because it's harder. So, like, I'd quote-unquote objectively say it's better in FE12, but it's also still really fun and challenging in FE3. Number 1, we're finally there. Chapter 5. You got multiple ways to go. You can go north, you can go to the south. You got the tough wyverns in the north, which means if you want to go to that village or you want to take the northern path, you got a chug, you got to struggle. But the south also has the long, one tall bridge with ballistas firing on it. So it's like, okay, you gotta be careful who you send on the bridge. And, you know, that is just such a fun challenge. I wish the arena was here in the FE12 version, but I know the reason why there isn't is because they actually made the secret shop better since everything is just master seals. In the original game, you'd have to protect, like, oh, I want to get blank and blank amount of this seal, I want to get blank amount of that seal. And Fire Emblem 12 is just like, oh, everyone uses Master Seal. I can just get enough Master Seals to promote a whole army. So they obviously wanted you to have less money, which is why they got rid of the arena, which makes sense, but I still kind of wish it was there. Secret Shop, though, I think it's fun to have. And again, I just love the challenge of the wyverns. It's so good. Anyways, here's the tier list for the whole game overall. Remember, it doesn't have any of the prologues, but also remember, all of them except for 1 are in F tier. So, it doesn't really matter. And they also weren't properly ordered, besides 8. But yeah, this is a good game. It has some good maps. I think FE12 has some issues that are not related to the maps, like unit bloat, for instance. And obviously, reclassing is such a... My opinions on that are so nuanced. It's like, I hate it, but I love it, but I hate it. It's one of those interesting things. But yeah, this is a good game. Good maps. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.